Welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Deason. With me today is longtime listener, poet laureate, and Taya Master, Anne-Marie Young. This is your Daily Dose of Happy. We are so happy you decided to join us today. And we're joined today by Terry Bean, who comes to us from the Big Apple, actually Queens in the Big Apple. And she is the author of ABRACADABRA. Now, I didn't realize that you created ABRACADABRA because I thought that was something that had been around for a long time, but you get credit for that. Congratulations.
Well, I definitely don't get credit for the word abracadabra, abracadabra and the magic behind it and the book itself. Yes, and of course not the song, since Lady Gaga just came out with the song in April, which that's a whole other amazing parallel universe. But yeah, Abracadabra was written actually 14 years ago.
Was it really?
Yeah. So it's amazing.
The next month or so.
No, it's been written, but it was never published.
Okay.
It was never, ever published. I always had the dream of getting it illustrated and getting it published. And back in 2014, I think I was surrounded by a bit of, negativity and people who were just not very, very positive and more cynical, I think would be the word, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's where that came from, because I've always had a pretty positive outlook. My glass is full. It's not half empty or half full. It's pretty much full all the time.
Or beyond half full.
Yeah, it's not. I'm a pretty happy person. And I come from a place where I feel that people deserve to be happy all the time, and that it's truly a choice. Mm-hmm. It's a choice to be happy, right? So this book came to me from that. And then back in November of 2024, I reached out to my Facebook community and I said, does anybody know a illustrator? And when that happens, you just get slammed. And I got slammed. Okay. And when that happened, I shut down. I was too overwhelmed. I said, no, this isn't the right time. And that was it. Then I was in the Mind Valley certification class for my life coaching license. And when I did that, when you're surrounded by such support and love, and here I am, and I'm talking about different things that I do that I want to do, that book was always, especially when you're surrounded by such, positive, mostly happy people. I said, now's the time. And then I reached out. I did the reach out, and I went to Fiverr, which is that platform where, people engage in what they do, and you decide whether you're going to collaborate or not. And I found this woman who, she came from kidsbookart.com, and it was just her. And then all of a sudden I'm interviewing her, and she brings on this partner. And I said, the immediate, red flag, like, who are you? It ends up being that he was a gentleman who I ended up working with the entire project on. She dropped out after the cover. The cover you're going to see in the book is the same cover I'm using today. When she and he collaborated on that cover, I was stunned by the sketch and then the beauty once it was watercolored in, just absolutely stunned. And there were tears, the whole thing. And then Jay and I, Junaid Adi is his name, took off with it. And I am telling you, this man of 22 years old said to me, it's the most inspiring children's book I've ever read. He said, that's why I'm choosing to do this book with you and taking my entire July to do 15 illustrations, which he did. And he literally said that if he had this book before he was 18 years old, he wouldn't have gone through the crap he went through.
Wow. Well, that's an endorsement right there. So I just realized we kind of did things in reverse order here. We asked you to tell the story about the book, but we didn't actually say what the book is. I mean, you hinted
Good
at.
point.
Fortunately, thank you for doing that. It's a
Mhm.
children's book, but I know Anne Marie and I are both sitting here thinking, well, okay, it's a children's book. What's this children's book actually about?
Right? That's the excitement. So children's book, right? They usually open up super happy, super this. Typically, not with Abracadabra. So Abracadabra opens up with a child who's actually running away from her home and her parents' home because her parents are fighting. And she has tears in her eyes and she's going down to the lake to her favorite spot. And she finds a branch that turns into her magic wand. Okay. And she sees her reflection, and that reflection becomes her sage. That reflection talks to her about the power within her, which I like to call our wizard,
Mhm.
and that she can shift her mindset very quickly and be a happy child, and she's going to be happy for the rest of her life.
How interesting, a children's book that actually goes right to the heart of what we talk about, Anne Marie, because we talk about the importance of, you get to choose whether you're going to be happy, you're going to choose what your response is and so forth.
Yeah.
And we've had other people who have told about, children's books or other books that they've written and so forth. I don't recall one that went right to the heart of it that way. Do you?
No, especially not for children, but that's one way to grab attention, isn't it?
It is.
Well, I definitely felt that way, and the illustrations are screaming off the page. You're going to see them, and I'm hoping that you get the power behind our energy, Jay and I, because our energy. There were times in this we laughed, we cried, we just had the most incredible journey with this book, truly, and for us to start with a child. As we grow older and we get into all this personal development and stuff, it's almost like we start too late, right? If we only knew this as a child, maybe the majority of us would have been creating lives that we love. And for me, this is about, my vision is for children to understand that they have that power within to create the lives they love. When they create lives they love, they're going to become kinder adults.
That's a really key point right there. I mean, let's stop and just hang on that point for a moment, because it's actually something that I've been trying to hone in a little bit more lately, both here on the show and in my personal life, the value of kindness toward oneself. And I actually had an experience about 3 months ago with someone I was seeing that really hammered it home for me, the importance of it, because I can't say I was always a kind person. I have become one. I've learned to become one. And I've done that through developing my own sense of kindness toward myself, being less about perfectionism and cutting myself more slack and finding ways to appreciate things and so forth. And I was told by the person I was dating this past summer that I was the kindest man that she'd ever met. That was not something that would have been said about me, say, 15 years ago. I certainly would not have said about me 15 years ago. And to have it kind of reflected back that way, it caught me by surprise, but it also really reinforced the way people talk about, doing random acts of kindness, for instance, and that always kind of didn't resonate with me. Like, I get it, but I don't know, why random? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Now I realize why it doesn't make sense to me, because if you are working on your own kindness toward yourself, the kindness that you exhibit toward others isn't random at all. It just flows out of you on a regular basis. It's not so like you have to go out, I'm going to go do something randomly for one stranger right now. It doesn't have to work that way, because you just naturally start behaving in a kinder way. So I'm really glad that you hone in on that with the book.
Well, I feel that, if you're choosing to be a kind person, that nothing's random. You're going to, it's just going to exude from you, and everything you do is going to be like that. And you're going to walk around more with a smile on your face. And that smile is contagious.
It is.
And that smile shifts energy from literally just walking by. I remember walking by a New Yorker once. This is a great story. I walked by a New Yorker and he screamed behind me. He said, "You look prettier when you're smiling." That's what he said. Keep the smile on your face. It was
Did he, I
so
hope he said it at least with a
funny.
Brooklyn accent. That would have been perfect with a Brooklyn accent. Hey, you look
When I
better
had
with a
real
smile on your
Queens
face.
accent, you're right. Yeah. That's true. That's true. But I do feel that when we are intentionally more of the time kindness is going to come back to us. It's just going to be a kinder world. So to have a child understand that, create the life they love, where we all know here that 80% of the Americans, at least, not sure the UK people, but the Americans, it's 80% of us that do not love our lives. Now, if it's, can you imagine now? We know why so many people are walking around miserable. So let's inject this into children, that they have that ability. And when they do that, they are going to be more connected to themselves and kinder to themselves, therefore more connected to the outer world that we live in. And we're going to have a kinder, more connected world. That's it.
Funny thing
it's
too
not
is
that, it's so funny. It's not, and I say this in the book in a real funny way. I say that at the end, I end it with, it seems so silly, but it's so simple.
Oh, it
right?
is.
It seems so silly, but it's so simple. And it really is. And listen, one thing, when you put out a podcast like this and you talk about being happy and positive and everything, there is a lot of stuff that goes on in our lives that is not so great.
Yeah.
It's how long we're holding on to that, though.
Yes.
And how we're going to shift that perception.
And by the way, we're really good at that. We're good at hanging on to stuff. We're really, that's a skill.
We train that way. And we're trained that way even by, listening to news and media. We're just trained that
absolutely.
way. Negative news goes faster than positive news. It's always been the way. It's really very interesting how we've set ourselves up as a society. Yet I feel that there's a huge opportunity, and the opportunity is now. And now is the time, and a really important time, to get this message out based on what we're going through right now in the whole world, not just here in America.
Yeah.
Well, the way I like to look at it is it can be overwhelming to think about things in terms of trying to solve all the world's problems, because it's beyond anybody's ability to do that. But what we can do is we can solve, or at least address, our own problems. And in so doing, we affect people in our own circle, often in ways we don't even realize that we're doing. And it works both ways too. We can affect them positively, or we can affect them negatively. It works. They both work. They're both effective.
We're not going to be loved by everybody, right? I mean, I knew that when putting out the book, there are some people going, "Oh, this is a bunch of, hoo-ha," or whatever it is, which is always interesting. I have a background. I have a 91-year-old mom that I caretake right now. Okay, so you can imagine it's amazing, and she's a full-blown New Yorker. She's an incredible lady. Yet she would understand me saying that she's not easy. Okay. And at 91, we know that happens. It doesn't have to happen.
No.
That's also a choice, I believe.
That's right.
Yet it does happen. Why does it happen? Because a lot of people did not love their life and are embittered. So, let's nip that one in the bud with the book as well. But what's funny with Mom is that I dedicated it to her. And I'm sitting there and I'm saying, oh, this is going to be very interesting when I read this book to her, because all my personal positive speak has always been BS to her and a couple of other people in my life. So I said, I already pretty much know how you're going to feel about this book. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to write it down before I read it to you. I'm not going to tell you what I think, but I'm just going to write it down and go from there. But I think she'll very much appreciate that I did dedicate it to her. I think it's going to be a beautiful moment. She wants me to sit down and read it to her as though she's a child.
Nice.
Which is going to be a very, very sweet moment, And I'm thrilled to put it out the way it is right now. It's going to be a special book. Yeah, for sure.
That's a fantastic thing. And it's right about something that has such a positive side to it. I mean, we don't get a lot of that. Now, we will tend to get more of that in the children's books realm,
Sure.
but even there, I mean, a lot of it is, I don't know. I may be kind of poisoned on this one. Anne-Marie, you may have a better take on this just because you have two girls who they're kind of past the young age of children's books, but you've been through that fairly recently. But I have kind of like a skeptical view of a lot of children's books. I think a lot of them are kind of off the mark and kind of just not really. I mean, the stuff that I've seen, a lot of them I wouldn't want to read to a kid. It just wouldn't feel right to me. But you actually pick books out and read to your daughters. What's your take on that?
So I definitely agree. I think there's some absolute tosh out there. There's some stuff I just think's rubbish.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's also things like, have you ever heard of Julia Donaldson? Do you guys have her?
I don't have kids, so I don't know that one.
No, well, she's an amazing children's author, and it's all poetically written. Okay. And they've created shows out of her books and stuff, and that's fun. And that shows values and things. So, I mean, I used to read a lot of her books. But again, it's getting that message. What kind of message do you want to give your kids? And there was a lot of books out there were just words. There was no particular story. It was just pictures and words. And, when they're really young, maybe that doesn't matter so much. But as their brains are developing and you're trying to teach them things and guide them in the right way, I think a good storybook can make a massive difference. I mean, I know with my childhood, it's a lot about Enid Blyton, another British author. I used to always read her stuff and learn a lot from that. And what I like about yours, Terry, is it's doing self-development when you're older. It takes a lot longer. And, you've built up a lot of bad habits, a lot of trauma with it, and a lot of experience. But if you can get the children to think positively or have a good perspective as their brains are developing, then you're cutting a lot of that out.
And especially true in the fact that when you're young, you can absorb this stuff and put it to work faster than an adult. Yes. That's something Joel and I have talked about a lot, how the older you get, the more baggage you've accumulated. And so it just takes longer to start to believe that, you can apply this stuff successfully. Right, Terry?
Well, because you've created habits.
Yeah.
So that's what they become. So the habits were that much more difficult to break. I say that the book is really from... it's 6 to 9 are my ages, but it's really 6 to 60 and higher.
Yeah.
So I'm going to love coming back to you guys and saying, so what did you think? That's going to be very exciting for me. And please, I mean, I'm open to all critique, probably not from my family though, but all critique. So, but the coloring book has 2 worksheets in it. It's really interesting how I did this. And I took those, those illustrations. They're now sketches. They're beautiful. You can, draw them in and all of that jazz. But at the ends of the book, there are 2 worksheets because I knew how powerful it would be for children, number one, to start dreaming. And I know we do this kind of, but they don't necessarily write it down or draw it. So I gave them the opportunity to draw and write down what they want to be, do, or have when they grow up.
Okay.
And then the second thing I did is I forgot what they called. They're little blur boxes, blur bubbles, I guess what they're called. And I said, write down 1 or 2 words that you feel that you can say in the morning. It's a mantra. We all know that as adults, but they don't. So I've also given parents and teachers a learning point, right? It's also in the book because I have my mantra that I say every day, probably 30 times a day, which is everything is always working out for me. And I can't tell you, I just go through my day like that. And that will be my major thought of the day. I'm not going off into worry and this and, down too many rabbit holes. And I catch myself like we talked about before, catching yourself really quickly, as you're kind of spiraling out, which, we all do. That's part of life for sure. That is.
It is. Yeah. and being accepting of the fact that we do that is part of the gentle, kinder, softening way of dealing with yourself.
You said it before. I talked to friends of mine in different situations. I said, give yourself some grace right now.
Yeah.
Just give yourself some grace. That's what, the love to ourselves comes first and foremost before we can love others.
It takes practice too. I mean, especially the longer that you've gone without it, the more practice it takes. And that's what I found out.
Exactly.
You can still learn it. No matter, I mean, I didn't start until I was in my 50s, and yet I still managed to learn it. So you can learn it at almost any age. It just takes a little bit longer later on. But I think you're right that when you start at an early age, I mean, you're proposing starting at 6 to 9 years old, the formative years. When you're starting at that age, because the baggage isn't in the way, you're establishing, we're taking advantage of that neuroplasticity. We're taking advantage of the fact that we can program this stuff into our minds and make it a dominant part of our thought process, and not just our thought process, but our way of dealing with things. So when stuff comes up, the first thought that comes to my mind is, my mantra that I said every day, everything always works out for me. And so it doesn't matter how bad it is. Well, everything always works out for me. So now I can relax. I can feel good. I can feel confident. I don't feel like I have to stress. I don't feel like I have to be perfect. I don't feel like I have to beat myself up if I don't get from A to B. I can relax. I can say, this is okay. This is not a big deal. Everything's going to work out for me. It's going to be good.
It's so true. And I find then when I relax into things and I'm letting go of the outcome, right? I'm always letting go of the outcome and not attached to exactly what that outcome has to be.
Precisely. Yeah.
Yet I believe through my process that it's going to happen, and whatever it is and whatever it turns out, it's going to work out for me, right?
Exactly.
That life flows so beautifully and so easily, right? When you do that, and we create beautiful lives that way. We absolutely do. It's an exciting time to be touching children that way. I believe, the 6 to 9 year olds could have different hangups and things that are going on, but I don't think any of us have been privy to parents not having some kind of an argument and us turning it around possibly and pointing the fingers at ourselves and saying, oh my God, was it me, or whatever the situation is, or just really upset about it. And
well, that's one of the reasons we call them the formative years, because we get informed by the people who are dominant in our life. Who's going to be more dominant than our parents? I mean, that's just the way life works. That's, they are the primary caregivers. They're the primary everything in our lives. Yeah. And so, of course, it's going to affect us no matter what happens. Yeah. The beauty of it is when the effect is a positive effect. And I mean, we learn the most from the negatives, but the reinforcement of the positives, that's where the strength comes in. It's actually that combination. Because if you don't experience anything that's ever negative, you don't really grasp why the positive is so valuable.
It's a beautiful comment you're making, and the reason why is because it's called, I listen to a couple of people, as you can imagine, right? We all do. And Joe Dispenza is someone who's coming out actually with the whole children's program very shortly, in a year or two. So I've got to get in front of him. Then we have, Esther Hicks, who I've been listening to forever. And she really coined the phrase, everything is always working out for me. I gave her credit for that quote in my book, actually. So, but what I've realized, and I've come to realize at this stage in my life, is that everything is about perspective. It's just what's your perspective, right?
Right.
So, and we can change that perspective. If it doesn't feel good, change your perspective. Good if rule. You don't like the story you're living, change the narrative. And I know it sounds coy, but it's really not. It's not coy.
Well, it's my experience. That's the reason I started the show, is I was going through some really rough stuff 13 years ago. And I literally started because I knew I needed help. I figured, okay, I'll start a podcast. I'll bring experts on. That way I'll get the help. And it worked. I did get that. But what happened over time is, first of all, the original concept of the show was talk about law of attraction. Well, you covered that in the first couple hundred episodes. I'm 2,000 plus episodes in. So, I mean, we covered that one a while ago, but I had to keep going because what I was finding was those perspectives that you were referring to, they were really doing a number on me in terms of helping me to see things differently, to see myself differently, make changes in way. I mean, I didn't even have to do much except, keep doing the podcast. And the changes kind of started to happen anyway, just because of all these people I was talking to over the years and all the different perspectives that they were giving me. So I totally get what you're saying. Perspective to me is one of the most valuable things that I get, and I've gotten it through doing the podcast.
It's just incredible. No matter what's in front of us, there is a gift. Just take it. There's a gift. So you don't know what it is sometimes. And sometimes it may not feel that good, but sometimes it feels great. But no matter what, there's a gift. Wait for it. You may have to wait a little bit longer. Just be a little patient. Yet get yourself in that groove of just expecting that it will without doubting it. And then,
and that's the beauty of the kindness aspect we're talking about. Being kinder to yourself is how you get there. Because that was the question I kept asking myself and my co-hosts and my guests over the years. Like, okay, I get that I have to make that change. How do I do it? Where do I start? We would explore all different kinds of ways to do that. But what I'm realizing now, 13 years later, is it really came down to being kinder to myself. We talked a lot about working on ourselves. That was a major theme for a long time. But what exactly did that mean? And then we had a lot of different ideas about that. I now understand it's the kindness. Kindness toward myself was the one thing that I did. Half the time I did it without even realizing I was doing it. But that was the one thing that made the most difference over time.
Absolutely. And I think that along with kindness comes the word allowing.
Well, yes. That was the big topic.
Allowing,
how do you allow? We have all these resistance.
Allowing it all to unfold. And it's congratulations, by the way, I want to say.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm very proud of that
accomplishment. That's awesome. Very good. Yeah.
I love it. And it's one of the reasons that actually the main reason I keep doing the podcast is I keep getting energy from it. And
that's it. I mean, so you shifted because you have all of this energy coming at you, and now you're all of a sudden vibrating at a completely different level.
Exactly.
Completely, you're attracting exactly, what you want. We get what we want and we get what we don't want. So we always have to be, careful of where our focus is. Where's our perception? Where's our perception? It's all just this beautiful cycle of life, right? It's a cycle that we get into, and we have the ability to steer it all along the way.
And part of the fun for me from doing the podcast was, like I said, when I first started, I started because I needed the help. And I remember roughly about, I'm going to say 100 episodes into it, I started getting contact from listeners and realizing, oh my God, there are listeners. I hadn't thought of that. But the way I like to tell the story is the first time I got the letter was, oh my God, what have I been saying? I wanted to review the record. Did I say anything really stupid or whatever? But it's been really actually wonderful to have listeners, because listeners, the ones who stay, are the ones who resonate with the same kind of thought process and the same kind of belief system that we've been talking about on the podcast all this time. One of whom was Anne-Marie, by the way. Anne-Marie was a listener before she became a co-host.
Oh, fantastic.
And it's one of the reasons I brought her in as a co-host, because she knows the listener's perspective. Like Emery, as you're listening to this right now, because you've also been participating, but as you're listening to what we're hitting on right now, what are the parts that are resonating the most with you? Just like ad hoc.
I think what's resonating me is the perspective is having your perspective and chasing the perspective you want. But that self-care message keeps coming up recently for me in very different formats. So, and it's something I'm really working hard on. I mean, that's like an oxymoron. I'm working hard on self-care, but it makes such a difference. So it's just changing that perspective and looking after yourself and putting yourself high up in your priorities. Because I think, like you say, at a young age, we can end up being people pleasers because we're so scared of upsetting people, and we can neglect ourselves for a long time.
Very true. Interesting
Oh,
point you
yeah.
just made there. I don't know if you intended to make it quite the way I thought of it, but people pleasers are people who aren't really kind to themselves.
Mm.
That's right.
That's what I identified.
Very,
'Cause
very good. Very, very good point. Yeah.
Because when you were saying that you're a lot kinder now,
Mhm.
I was thinking, well, I used to be a lot kinder. I used to do everything for everybody. But then I was always thinking, because I do a lot of reflecting as I listen to the conversations, I was thinking, yeah, but I completely lost myself in looking after other people.
Yeah.
And actually my happiness now, yes, I'm doing self-care now. I'm a lot happier for that. And just
Yeah.
having my boundaries.
And interestingly enough, you now have a greater impact on others in the way you wanted to.
Absolutely. Way
Yeah.
more strong.
Yeah. With a lot less effort.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? You don't have to
I
struggle
didn't even
about it
realize
anymore.
you're doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, because you're having fun
Yes.
too. So the
Yeah.
more fun we have, I mean, the sweeter it gets, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because again, people feel that and people resonate with that. They resonate with fun. You know, we've lost, many of us adults have lost that silliness in us, that fun in us. For some reason, someone said somewhere that when you grow up to be adult, you have to get serious. Things get really serious, you know, and all of a sudden people are just, and it is so fun to be silly. It
Mm.
truly is.
Mhm.
So I always say that I'm still 4 in
Okay.
my heart. And I used to have a friend who used to say, no, you're 2. And I used to have that kid argument with her, which was really, really fun. But truly, to reconnect with that inner child will make life more fun. And that's exactly what you did. You reconnected with that. You by law of attraction, you were vibrating differently. And then all of a sudden you, because of who you were being, you have people attracted to you to this podcast, which is fabulous. There are a lot of podcasts out there, as we know now. So
Yeah.
thank you for being here. It's a wonderful opportunity to speak to the two of you, and I can speak about this all day and night long, all day and night long. And it all comes down to, that's what's amazing, the basic things, right? That we've been talking about. It's amazing.
One of my other co-hosts, Joel Elston, he was my 12th interview back in 2012, the first year that I started the podcast, and we've continued to do episodes together to this day. One of the things that we often like to talk about is how we made the whole topic so complex, because we were kind of figuring it out together as we went along. You know, I mean, he was maybe a little bit more ahead of me than I was, you know, and so that made the conversation interesting and worthwhile and so forth. But basically, we were just trying to figure the whole thing out. And we really did make it very complex. I mean, it was fun. It was a fun complexity. We just, you know, we explored all these different avenues. We talked rabbit holes. My God, we going down rabbit holes was normal. That was the fun part, you know?
Right.
But at the end of the day, I mean, it was a whole lot more simple than we were giving it credit for. And we look at it now and we say, how did we make it so complex? It really is simple.
Because you're human. Us human beings love to make things difficult and complex. I mean, look at the way society runs. I sit here, when I came from Florida to New York and got the license and did all this, I said, why? Why did we make things so complicated with everything? It just seems, why did we do that as a society? It's very interesting to me. I've brought that up to a couple of people. But again, you know, through the difficulties, just have fun with it, play with it, laugh with it, and enjoy the ride. Because that's why we're here. You know, we're here to enjoy the ride. We're not here to deal with all, you know, the turmoil and all this. I'm not saying, again, it's there. But how do you really choose to want to deal with it? And how do you want it in your world? How is it really working in your world? Yeah.
Well, to be fair, I think that many people do want the turmoil. I don't think they necessarily want the turmoil to be highly negative. But one of the reasons we come into this world is because it's a contrast world. It's a polarity world.
Love that.
We choose that.
Absolutely. But contrast doesn't have to be bad.
It doesn't have to be, no.
Contrast, and that's what some people think contrast is bad, right? That's one. The second point I was going to bring up is that we all have that choice with contrast. And now I lost my train of thought for a second.
That happens all the time. Don't worry about it.
Well, it's almost like that contrast we see as bad and we see it as challenging, and actually it's opportunities 9 times out of 10.
Always. And that's it. There's the perspective right there, Anne-Marie. It's always an opportunity. It's always an opportunity, and it could be a fun opportunity, you know? And I think when we look at things that way, our lives really, really change for the better.
Really
for the better. I still don't have it. Sorry.
That's all right. It'll come back when it's ready.
I know it.
Chloe, can I ask you a question? Was there something magical in your childhood for you to have that positive my glass is full?
No, it's a great question. There's a couple of things, first of all, and I write it on my website, but the one thing that I know that kind of made me who I was is my parents were both divorced previous to marrying each other and having me. So I was an only child with a child of my mom's that I lived with and 2 children from my dad. And they came in with a lot of stuff, angst and divorces and screaming and, you know, just like a little bit of nuttiness. And I decided, whether it was distraction, whether it was ever, they called me their sunshine child, and I stepped right into that. And I decided to be the fun one, the mediator, the one that just kind of settled things down to what I felt I needed, which was a bit more normalcy, right? In 4th grade, my 4th grade teacher, Mrs. Liebert, who I remember, actually casted me as the lead in a play, and I played Mother Nature.
Oh my!
Which is why I have such a close relationship with her all the time. You know, the snow, I really have a lot of fun with it. But I got on stage and I had the mask on, and it was a messy, filthy, you know, polluted world. And at the end of the play, I had this beautiful dress on with rose-colored glasses. And I swear I never took the rose-colored glasses off. I just didn't take them on.
That's interesting.
So I think that was part of it too, just getting, and I was bullied, by the way, terribly bullied as a kid. So, you know, to get through those times were really, really interesting for me and tough. And I think I just put myself in my own little world, you know, as we do as children. And, you know, it was hurtful and painful and a lot of other things. Yeah, you know, you survive and you move through it. But those times, you know, they can still bring up tears. It's amazing how things can still bring up tears, right?
I'm curious about something, especially now that you're telling that story. And it actually reminds me of a conversation I had with a group of people over the weekend, in which we were talking about the fact that we live in this world of polarity and that, you know, things happen that we don't like and so forth. And a comment that came up was something that I've talked about here on the show previously, but it's the idea of appreciating what we don't like, which I found for the longest time to be very challenging, very difficult to do. It didn't become easy for me until I finally achieved a realization. And the realization was I don't have to like something in order to appreciate it.
Brilliant.
That took me a long time to get to. But when I finally got to that one, first of all, it made it a whole lot easier to be kind to myself, by the way. I mean, that contributed in a major way. But it also made it easier for me to appreciate things I couldn't appreciate before. And that also led not only to kindness toward myself, but also kindness toward others. Because if I didn't feel like I had to, you know, beat something up for being something I didn't like, well, that made my life a whole lot easier. Now I could take the breath. Now I could relax. Now I could feel good about stuff. So I'm kind of curious, you know, based on what your experience was when you were a child and you went through the bullying and so forth. I imagine at some point you came to terms with that concept. I'm curious. Do you remember how you did that?
Concept of
appreciating something without necessarily liking it.
I don't know if I ever liked being bullied, as you can imagine.
No, I don't think.
Yeah. And I don't know if I necessarily appreciate it. I think what I did was I distracted myself.
Okay.
In other words, I just I did other things. I didn't let it consume me. So a lot of people allow the things that they don't like to consume them,
Right.
right? And then they stick with it, and then they use that as their story and their narrative
Oh,
and
yeah,
their
they prop it up.
crutch,
Right.
as their crutch
Yeah.
to play the victim and not take, and I've got to use huge thing about accountability and responsibility. You know, it's very easy to blame, and then you don't have to take the responsibility or accountability for your life or for anything else, right? So you could just go off and live that way. But does that feel good?
No.
Probably not.
It never does.
Right? So, and once you really understand that it doesn't, and that you have the power to shift that feeling based on your thoughts, it's a game changer. It's an absolute game changer. And that's exactly what you did. Yeah. It's a real, because I'm sure you didn't like being that person, right?
No,
it's not fun. But you found a way to appreciate it, and then you turned it around. You slowly turn it around. Appreciating is another thing I say. I believe that if, when married, that we find the time to appreciate one thing, just one thing that other person does every day, and share that with them, we wouldn't have as many divorces. No. I think appreciation is the thing. When we take a look at jobs and people, it's not always the money that they want. They want appreciation. Yeah. They just want to be acknowledged.
In fact, I would say that's probably in greater short supply. Is that a phrase? Greater short supply? There's more short supply of that than there is of the jobs that have the money. I mean, not that all the jobs have money. They don't all pay well, but the lack of appreciation, that's almost universal. And kind of growing.
And that's why people are now tumbling at a job and going to job to job to job, because they don't feel that appreciation, you know? Yeah. It's
kind of a game changer when you realize that the appreciation, this is the part that really freaked me out. I remember it's kind of a game changer when you realize the appreciation has to start with yourself.
Yes. Yeah. Just as we're saying.
That's one of those oh damn moments. Like, what do you mean I'm the one who has to do this?
So everything starts here, right? Everything starts here. And if we do it with a clean slate at that 6 to 9 or even sooner, I mean, listen, the mothers put Mozart on their stomach because they feel that the baby's going to learn through the womb. You've heard of that, I'm sure. Yeah. Start reading right away. Start right away with this influence, and allow that child to really grow. It's a beautiful time to be able to share this with you guys. It really is. And thank you so much for taking it in. And wow, this is a fabulous, fabulous podcast.
Oh, we appreciate that.
I've been into law of attraction for a long time, and I really, truly think it started at the age of 8.
So that's pretty cool. I mean, I didn't even know about law of attraction until The Secret came out. I mean, I knew the basic ideas associated with it, kind of, disconnectedly, but
I don't think I knew that it was LOA. I think
somebody else.
Yeah, I think I just spoke a different language.
Yeah,
I was speaking just a completely different language, right? So I'm sorry.
Sorry, no, I thought I was going to say 10 years ago I hadn't even heard of law of attraction.
Yeah,
totally new.
It's pretty tremendous, and I am a complete believer of it. Entirely.
And I was actually a major skeptic of it, because I mean, when the book came out and the movie came out, I first encountered them about a year after they came out, and I read the book and I thought, okay, that's nice, but it's not realistic. I mean, that's just like that woo-woo fairyland dreamland stuff. That's not the way reality works. That's literally what my reaction was at the time. And it took me, that was one of the reasons actually why I started the podcast, because 2008, I also had a business crash. My business got wiped out by the financial crisis because my clientele got wiped out. And in the years that followed, I was not able to rebuild the business. It was really struggling badly. We were going deep into debt. It was an absolutely miserable time. And so after a while, you kind of get desperate enough, you'll try anything. So I said, well, maybe I should try this law of attraction stuff because I don't know what else to do at this point. So that's why I started the podcast about law of attraction, to kind of fill in the gaps and say, okay, I'll give this woo-woo crap a try. What exactly am I missing here?
That's fantastic.
And I learned a lot, of course, along the way from doing all that. But my initial reaction was, this is a bunch of nonsense.
Yours is like the law of last resolution. It's pretty funny. It's pretty
law of desperation.
Yeah, desperation. Very interesting. Yeah. And it is amazing. It's a lot. It's, we say that we're a product of our environments, right? So the environment, and even now, it's the challenge of confronting all of these things now for me, and having those tools in my toolbox. Like, I know that if I didn't have those tools, there is absolutely no way I could be doing and being my mom's caretaker and be with her, literally living in the same space. Yeah, no, there would be no way. So I understand, the breath work that it takes, right? And sometimes I'm holding it. You're right. But you understand the way you have to, like, take care of yourself, and that everything's going to be okay. And, this should only be the worst thing that happens to me. And, that kind of game. And it's a game, right? It's kind of a game. We're all in a game. So how do we want to play it with ourselves?
Well, I know that for me, part of the way that I played the game, and was one of the reasons why I kept going with the podcast even after I started to understand how the whole thing worked, is I recognized not only the value of the perspective, but the value of the connection. Because when you connect with people who have that same kind of mindset, it becomes mutually reinforcing. Yeah. It's more than additive. It's geometric in the way that it reinforces itself. So if you're struggling, like I was struggling, to be kind to yourself, to feed yourself in the way you need to feed yourself, then connecting to others who are trying to do the same thing, that it's almost like a back door. It's kind of a way of sneaking in through the back door to get to that thing that you're having so much trouble getting to.
It's so true, Emery. I'm sure you feel the same way. The power of, you could call it persuasion, but it's the power of the people. It's the power of your community. It's unmistakable. I saw it with a friend of mine who passed, unfortunately, just a few months ago, diagnosed, supposed to live 3 to 6, if that, lived 4 years. And I'm telling you, it was the power of the community she had around her. It was incredible. I feel that way about the book, with the power of Mind Valley around me and all that support I had, and, being in that space of positivity and learning and exploring ourselves and choosing what we wanted to do and such, that really helped catapult this for sure. Yeah.
And I'm finding for myself, I'm in the later stage of life, supposedly, although I don't think of it that way, but the way that society tends to think about things, I'm in that later stage of life. And the thing that I've noticed more than anything else, particularly since I'm 3 years divorced, since the divorce, I've really come to notice this a lot. The main reason why people get into that later stage of life and go into decline and so forth is because of their mindset. It has nothing to do with medicine. It has to do with mindset. Yep. And 100%. I've had so many people make comments to me, how young I am, how young my body is, and all this kind of stuff. And I know it's true compared to most people around my age, but I also can see, I've been observing it firsthand, people who don't adopt the mindset, right? And they're the ones in decline. People who are friends of mine, I'm watching them do it. And
amazing.
It just becomes so obvious to me.
I have a question for you then. Those people, do many of them have purpose? Because purpose, I feel, is the other thing
that puts people
in decline. If they don't have purpose, and I don't care how big or small it is, it doesn't matter. But here with LOA today, purpose. Real purpose and fun and meeting all these people.
And passion. I equate the two. Passion and purpose really are Besides
So
the
do
same
I.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Terrific. Yeah.
Yeah. And the people who have passion, they are younger.
Yeah.
I mean, they visibly are younger.
Yeah. Oh, they're
To some
smiling more.
Yeah. No, it's true. It really is true.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we do appreciate having you on the show to share all this stuff and kind of revisit us, back to the stuff that we talked about in the very earliest years, because we don't really go to the law of attraction arena very often anymore. I mean, it comes up in conversation, but it's not. Most of the time, we're talking about what's life about and how are we dealing with life and all that kind of thing. So to kind of do the revisiting. But it also occurs to me. I mean, we mentioned the title of the book. We mentioned that it's coming out in January, right?
Yeah, it's coming out the first few weeks in January, first couple of weeks in January. And I'm now awaiting kind of the finishing touches on the coloring book, right?
Oh,
So
okay.
because I want the two of them to kind of be launched at the same time. That's why I'm holding back a little bit. And also I didn't want to be with the rest of the noise, the Christmas noise.
Yeah.
Personally, I didn't. There was so much coming out. And then it doesn't feel aligned. It doesn't feel like flow to me. So I just wanted to do that. You can look up terrybeanauthor.com.
Oh, okay.
There is actually a coloring book sheet that you can download as well. You can join the Bean team, as I like to say it, so we could all foster, a kinder, more connected world. And keep in touch with me as to when it's coming out and my blog and everything else. Yep. And that's all on terrybeanauthor.com.
Okay.
My email, if you wanted to get in touch direct, is info@terrybeanauthor.com.
Okay. That's great. That's great that you want to have people reach out to you too. I think that's the important thing to that connection that we're talking about.
Oh, I love it. I love these conversations. I love all, and that's where the consulting business will come in, and that's for another podcast. So we will, we'll make that happen. I definitely would love to make it happen when the book launches, if you'd have me and come back on, and I'll have the book here.
Well, we do have two other things that we do before we wrap up the show. And with the three things, actually. The first one is finding out more about how to reach you and how to find the book and all that kind of thing. So you've spelled that out. So that's good. And Jen will make sure she'll put it into the show notes, with the quick link and so forth. But the second thing I like to do is I like to go to Anne Marie as my co-host, because like I mentioned before, she's a former listener who became a co-host. So I kind of think her as the person who represents the audience, because I told the story, like when I started this, I didn't even think about having an audience and, oh my God, there are people listening to this thing, So I don't really have that same perspective that she has. So Anne Marie, listening to this from the listener's perspective, kind of sum this up and tie it, with a bow on top for us.
I just feel the magic of this whole conversation. And I think getting that message out to children early in life is just something special. So, we all want the best for our kids, but this really gives them the best start. So I loved that. And I think the key thing I've taken from this, and I think it's been the continuous message throughout the conversation, is perspective. Is if something's happening to you, look at your perspective and just change a little thing. Just notice what happens and just keep building on that. But yeah, having that whole perspective and concentrating on what you do want and not what you don't want.
Beautiful. Yeah. Well tied together. I love that. So, and then the final thing I like to do, since we live in the 21st century, Terry, where we can do these conversations. You're in New York. I'm in Connecticut. She's in the UK. I mean, I have a co-host in Alberta. Bowles in Richmond, Virginia. We have listeners in Australia and visitors. And I mean, it's a great thing. Something that 30 years ago didn't exist. Along with that has come the ability to publish books, create courses, become coaches, share things on social media. We have experiences we've gone through. We learn from them, and then we're able to share them with others, and they run off and do things with them we don't even know about. Yeah. And that's where I realized there's a gap. The gap is we don't get credit for the people that we help that we don't know about. I said, oh, well, we should do something about that. So I make it a practice to do that at the end of every show, and I'm going to do that with you right now. So Terry, on behalf of those people you've never met, never seen, and never will meet, never will see, who you've been helping ways you didn't even know about, on their behalf, thank you for what you're doing, because you're making a difference in this world. Even my mic goes over.
Well, she or he wanted to thank me too.
Yeah, he did too. Well, yeah, he also wants to be fed right now, but that's another thing.
Because pets are magical, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
Yes, Felines
thank
is
you for what
special.
you're doing, because especially with a children's book like this, that you're going to affect people's lives that you don't even know necessarily how it's going to happen, but you can trust it's going to happen. So
Absolutely do. And thank you both for having me on again. Really highly appreciate it. Thanks
We
so
love it.
much, and to your audience for listening. Thank
Well,
you.
that's it. That's the way I
Get the
always
book.
finish it off. Thank you to our podcast listeners everywhere. You're wonderful, and we'll see you all.
Abracadabra.
We'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.